Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 are very close to coming out. Before that happens, there's information about a certain someone you need to know because he will absolutely be referenced in the game and maybe even in hands. That person is Gaster, the royal scientist. Strap in for a recap for everyone's number one rated mystery. Starting off with Undertale, Gaster, despite being present in many Undertale fan games, is barely important. The only way you directly find out about him is with his followers who mention him. The river person mentions the man who speaks in hands, which is absolutely Gaster with his entry 17. Meanwhile, there's a phone call mentioning someone named G. The only regular characters who could have some knowledge are Sans, Papyrus, Elfies, and a score. Maybe Toriel if Gaster is that old, but that's it. Before we finish, there are two things I want to mention. The first are the Goners. They are grey like the followers, but they don't explicitly mention Gaster. The other thing I want to mention is how Gaster is probably related to Sans and Papyrus because he's the only other character to have a white head. This is why I think they are one of the few characters to know who Gaster is. Now we will talk about Gaster's presence in Deltarune, which is way more than Undertale, so we'll be splitting this into two segments for the two Deltarune chapters. Starting off, literally, the first sequence in the game is referred to as Goner Maker in the game files, and the voice speaks in all caps, which could be Papyrus if it was in his font, so it's Gaster. There is a second voice, but that's irrelevant, so we won't talk about it. Gaster doesn't have any presence in the light world unless you think Sans and Papyrus are Gaster, but I'm not talking about that theory. So fast forward to the dark world where Elsa mentions the prophecy, which might be Gaster relevant. Then fast forward to Sean, who not only looks like Gaster but is also old as heck, so he knows more than the average Darkner. The next relevant character is Jevil. Firstly, he smiles, which is somewhat related to Gaster. Then there's his knowledge of the roaring, and the nail in the coffin is Sean mentioning someone who's probably Gaster, making Jevil insane and says darker yet darker. The last character who could be related to Gaster is Rule's card. On the surface level, he seems like an idiot who can't be important. But he also looks like Gaster, and the last character to look like Gaster is important. Another factor is him being the only Darkner we fight again in Chapter 2. It's possible Rules is looking for an evil master until he finds Gaster. One more thing before we move on. This Lightner is similar to this Gaster follower and was near the Chapter 2 Dark World. Now, for this intermission, we will talk about Gaster being related to this. Just to recap, she is Noelle's sister but went missing one day. It's theorized she's the person speaking in the unused code, which may be in Gaster's bunker. Oh right, he has a bunker in hometown which has his theme slowed by 666%. Now for Chapter 2. This chapter isn't as Gaster related as Chapter 1 was, but there is still Gaster related stuff. The chapter has nothing to do with him until we meet a quirky salesman, also known as Spampton. This guy seems like a silly goober at first, but when you talk to him he says the phrase, "Can anyone hear me? Help." This reference is Dis, who as discussed previously is connected to Gaster. Then, when you go to Queen's basement, you see this weird smile for a second, which might be a cat or maybe Gaster in some way. Fast forward to the Spampton Neo reveal where he talks about it still being dark. Once beating him, you can go back to the trash zone to see the other Edisons, and they reveal him meeting someone helping him succeed, then making him insane. The last Addison says they went to check on him, but the phone was on, but when he checked, there was nothing but garbage noise. I haven't mentioned it, but when you use your phone in the dark world it makes the same sound entry 17 makes. The only other reference to Gaster is at the end when Queen mentions darkness, which could be evidence for Gaster discovering dark worlds. One more thing I want to mention are the eggs. They are either from Gaster or Papyrus. Gaster because the Eggman is mysterious just like him, whilst Papyrus has an egg in the date in Undertale. There is also a pattern of returning said egg somewhere in the light world. Chapter 1 was at Asgore's place while Chapter 2 was at Sen's place. Also, Metatan asks to bring him something tomorrow, which could be the egg. Chapter 4 could be Undine and Chapter 5 would be Papyrus. Either way, the egg is related to Gaster. Be sure to look out for hints regarding the egg in future chapters. Well, this is the final deltarune video before chapters 3 and 4 release. I'll still upload shorts because I don't have to write a long script. Like and subscribe to see what I cook next, and see you next time.